You're listening to The Conversation. On January the 8th, as thousands of Iranians took to the streets in nationwide anti-government protests, the government cut off the internet. Under cover of digital darkness, the Iranian regime launched a brutal and deadly crackdown against protesters. The information that has got out, including testimony from morgues, graveyards, and doctors who treated the injured, suggests that thousands of people were killed. The true number is still unknown. Iran has shut down the global internet before, but never for this long. Without the internet, trading has slumped. Many entrepreneurs who rely on Instagram to do business can't post. Lorry drivers are struggling to cross borders because they can't access digital documents. Booking flights is unpredictable. 3 weeks on, reports from web traffic monitors show that the internet is slowly coming back online, but in a very limited way, accessible only for a whitelist of government-approved users. Yet, for most of the shutdown, banks and some local government websites and apps still worked. And that's because Iran is developing its own national internet, cut off from the rest of the world. So why did Iran decide to build its own national internet? How has it managed to? And what's the ultimate goal? I'm Gemma Ware from The Conversation, a news and analysis platform partnering journalists with academics. Welcome to The Conversation Weekly, where experts explain how we ended up here. In this episode, how Iran built one of the world's most sophisticated systems of digital control. Amin Naini, you're a PhD researcher on digital authoritarianism at Deakin University in Australia, and you look at the way authoritarian regimes control cyberspace. You're also a visiting fellow at Dublin City University in Ireland. You're Iranian and you've lived through some of Iran's internet shutdowns before and have been tracking this most recent one closely. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
As I'm speaking to you, Iranians have been cut off from the internet for 19 consecutive days. What does this shutdown look like?
Yeah, in fact, we are approaching 3 weeks in which more than 85 million people don't have access to internet, and basically they are living in an information vacuum. So the only things that work, government websites and some local messengers and some banking systems, basic things such as Google search is not possible in Iran right now. We have reports from Iranian media that they say very soon internet will be back in 1 or 2 days.
Iranian authorities are reportedly considering gradually restoring internet access after cutting communications across the country more than a week ago.
But actually, it didn't happen.
And what's it like for you living outside the country, trying to understand what's been happening?
We have no clear information what is happening in Iran, just what we can see, information that are coming out of the country from satellite internet, Starlink. Other than that, we have seen reports from those people that could manage to get out of the country. So they shared their experiences and reported that the situation is very difficult in terms of connection between people, in terms of repression. And we have now reports that thousands of people have been killed.
Human rights groups say more than 5,000 people have been killed, most of them protesters. Reports say tens of thousands have been detained.
So this is a very difficult situation for every Iranians across the world. People in Iran are waiting to be connected again, hopefully.
Take me back to 2009. Iran at that time is going through a wave of protests known as the Green Movement. What's happening online during those protests that makes this a pivotal moment in the story of Iran's internet shutdown?
The 2009 protests became very unprecedented even in Iran after 1979 revolution. It was the first time huge crowds took to the street in major cities.
The Iranian government has announced that President Ahmadinejad has been re-elected with 62.6% of the vote.
Across Tehran, knots of angry opposition supporters gathered at intersections, shouting down with the dictator.
And what was more important was that many people used internet and social media platforms for the first time to coordinate their activities and organize their protests. And basically, many people at that time believed that election results were manipulated when President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was re-elected. But the first time we saw huge crowds in the country and also the usage of internet. People were very active on Twitter and Facebook.
The majority of video and written dispatches have been coming from citizens, many armed with just a simple mobile phone camera. It defies the efforts of the authorities in Iran, who are well known for erecting one of the world's toughest internet blockades.
In academia, these protests are described as a Twitter revolution, which shows how these platforms played a significant role. People use these platforms to say what time they could take to their streets, and they also shared their narratives. And it was the first time, basically, that they could create a collective identity beyond what the government has imposed them for 3 decades at that time. The protests basically pushed the Iranian leadership to be more determined in tightening control in digital space. Immediately, they blocked platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
What was happening online that made the Iranian government so anti-internet?
The main reaction from the authorities was that these protests are planned by the enemy. So when we talk about enemy in the Iranian context, first and foremost, it's the United States. So they basically said that internet is a tool of the US to mobilize people against the Islamic Republic, to win hearts of younger generations, to undermine Islamic values that we have cultivated in the country. And from that time, we saw some concepts such as soft war and cultural invasion. Officials repeatedly highlighted these terms, and basically they became part of official discourse. Let me give you some background on Iran. Since 1979 Islamic Revolution, the government controlled all traditional media platforms. Television and radio are fully state-run, and newspapers are closely monitored. Even publishing books require prior approval. So it was the internet that basically broke this closed situation. Because of the decentralized nature of internet, it was very difficult at that time for the Iranian regime to technically control digital space. So the idea of sovereignty over cyberspace became a clear objective for the Iranian leadership.
Once they'd got that objective, how did they go about trying to implement this technically after the 2009 protest?
In 2012, Supreme Leader Khamenei ordered the creation of a Supreme Council of Cyberspace. This is a council that aims to create a centralized control room for advancing strategies of the government to basically monitor everything that is related to cyberspace. Members of these councils include the president, the head of judiciary, speaker of parliament, and a commander-in-chief of revolutionary guards, the national police chief, and some other people that are personally appointed by Supreme Leader Khamenei. This council has had significant responsibilities and missions they pursue to implement national internet, which is known in Iran as a national information network. They are also in charge to decide which platforms should be blocked or not. And another thing that they do is promoting the creation of alternative platforms locally.
what does it actually mean to have a national internet?
So this allows the government to cut international internet whenever they feel it is dangerous for themselves to see people are connected through international platforms. In simple terms, national internet means splitting Iran's internet into two parts. One connects the world outside Iran, the internet that we all know, and the other is the internet that stays in the country. They create servers inside the countries, they create platforms, websites. For example, they have created a platform similar to Twitter, a platform similar to YouTube. And these are based in Iran. The state has full control over these platforms. But the fact is that in Iran, very few people actually use these national platforms based on surveys inside the country, join these platforms. On the other hand, official reports suggest that more than 80% of Iranian users use VPNs to circumvent internet censorship. More than 70% of Iranians are active on one or at least one social media platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, and so on.
So in the region, Iran kind of was amongst other countries that were toying with this idea around this time. In Egypt in 2011, during those protests, the internet was shut down notoriously. In Syria, during the war against Bashar al-Assad's regime in the civil war.
Yeah.
So was that an inspiration in some way for Iran's moves?
What is different in Iran is that at the same time that the internet is shut down, we can see that government websites, banking systems, and local messaging apps and website work. And this is the national internet. This is the difference. I can say that Iran's national internet is similar to China's Great Firewall. They are not completely the same, but this is an idea that Iran has learned from China to basically separate domestic connection from international connection. Up until 2013, when President Rouhani came to power, the national internet was just theoretical concept, no significant progress. But the Rouhani administration, which is known as moderates, and they represent the reformist camp. Traditionally, reformists have good relationship with universities and private sector in Iran. So they leverage this relationship to advance the national internet through working with different startups. And these companies basically work to create the infrastructure that allows those national websites and critical online services work inside the country.
And what role was China playing at this time in developing these capabilities?
In terms of relationship between Iran and China in the area of digital control, we can see two levels of cooperation. The first one is not actually a formal cooperation. It is diffusion of digital authoritarianism, which means Iran can see what China can do to control internet. So they learned these tactics and strategies. As I said, the national internet is an idea that they have tried to replicate what's going on in China. The second level is a formal cooperation between Iran and China. We know that in 2021, Iran and China signed a 25-year agreement. Details have not been made available publicly, but for example, some MPs have said that as a part of this agreement, Iran and China are working to advance the National Information Network project. And because there is a close relationship politically between China and Iran, we can expect that these countries are working together, and basically China is helping Iran expand its digital censorship system.
Really interesting. I guess more will come out in the future about that technically, and there have already been some leaks about the way China is spreading its digital control technology globally. So 2019 was the first time Iran has really tested this blackout technology at scale during another round of protests. Can you talk me through what happened during that time?
That's exactly the same situation that we are experiencing these days. Complete internet shutdown, but domestic websites were working and the national internet was in place.
Protesters blocked a major highway near Tehran.
It helped the government at that time to suppress protests while nobody knew what was happening in Iran, because unlike the current wave of protests that few people have had access to Starlink in 2019, there wasn't any access to Starlink, so it was a complete shutdown.
So were you there during that time?
Yeah.
What was it like? So you'd open your computer or your phone, and what was it like trying to connect?
It's difficult to describe, but you had to sleep more, I can say, based on my own experience, because you just want to see the lapse of time and you just want to see another day. You are waiting for any update that, the internet is back. So it's very difficult to describe it.
And do people turn to using the telephone rather than their mobile phones or WhatsApp or something like that? How do people even try and talk to their families inside Iran?
At that time, people mostly use SMS service, for example, or calling each other. But for this round of protests, we heard that even SMS service and other calling services were also cut during the first 3 days.
How long was the internet shut down for in 2019?
In 2019, it was around 1 week.
1 week. And then a similar thing happened a few years later in 2022.
40 years of anger against the Islamic Republic of Iran expressed through the fist of teenage girls. They chant, "Women, life, freedom."
In 2022, the story was different. There wasn't a complete internet shutdown across the country. Basically, the government monitored the situation to see where people are more active. So they imposed restrictions and internet shutdown in those cities. And I remember that at that time also they imposed restrictions in a specific period of time. For example, from 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. Most protests were taking place at that time. So they wanted to prevent any coordination and organization.
Coming up, what the future of the internet might look like in Iran. That's after this short break.
I was saved by God to make America great again.
An autocrat loves a crisis. A crisis is the way that they mobilize their base.
While America is under invasion from within, we're under invasion from within.
He's testing the boundaries of what he can get away with.
We should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military.
We've asked 6 of the world's preeminent scholars how we can measure the make of an autocrat. It's a recipe of sorts, tried and tested by the most infamous leaders in history.
Hugo Chavez in Venezuela.
Vladimir Putin in Russia.
Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler.
Viktor Orban in Hungary.
He's basically bulletproof in terms of criminal prosecution.
Join us from December 29 as we explore Trump, the making of an autocrat, from The Conversation.
So you've described the current situation now in 2026 with these ongoing protests and the internet shutdowns as a kind of cat and mouse game between the Iranian people and the government. What are we seeing now in 2026 that's different from previous internet shutdowns in 2019 or 2022?
In terms of government capabilities, we can see that they are now able to extend internet shutdown to 3 weeks.
One of the ways to get around the blackout is Starlink. The company has provided free access after the blackout began.
But at the other hand, we can see people are using Starlink for the first time to send videos of protests and to inform the world what is happening inside the country. It is part of that digital resistance that we have seen from the Iranian people over the past 2 decades.
How many Iranians actually have access to Starlink?
It's just a few thousands. For the Iranian people, it's very expensive because of economic crisis and inflation in the country over the past 2 decades. Most people earn around $100 to $200 per month. So it's very difficult for them to afford Starlink.
And the government is trying to clamp down on it as well, isn't it?
They try to disrupt signals that Starlink works based on them. Having Starlink is illegal in Iran. And especially during these days, I heard that official media have said that the government will punish those who have Starlink.
You said that Starlink is part of a kind of digital resistance going on by Iranians. And a big part of that is the huge expansion of VPN services, virtual private network services. How important is that as part of that digital resistance to this growing digital authoritarianism?
When internet is available, international internet is available, people can use VPNs. Basically, people have several VPNs on their smartphones, trying one by one to see which one is connected. And we have media reports from Iran and from some MPs that have said people in Iran spend around $1 billion annually to have access to free internet. Many believe that there is a VPN mafia. It is known with this description in Iran, that some groups linked to the government, if not the government officially, are active in creating VPNs and in selling them because of that profitable market. A security concern is that they might be able to monitor traffic of users. Basically, the government, the regime can earn money, and at the same time, they can monitor activities of people who use these VPNs.
Iranian officials have said that the national internet is about 60% complete. What happens when the project is finished?
I think the ideal scenario for the Islamic Republic is to be able to cut global network permanently. When they see that there is an option to basically advance the project to fulfill their security demands, they don't hesitate to do that. Beyond complete internet shutdown, there is another project currently in Iran that they want to create a tiered internet, which means institutions, organizations, and people who have established their loyalty to the system can register and get internet access. But the rest of society would be limited to the national internet. We have seen this pattern of tiered internet. It was revealed just a few months ago. An X platform made public locations of accounts. So because people in Iran use VPNs, the location for these Iranian users are somewhere in North America, in Europe, in Australia. But people noticed that significant number of pro-regime accounts with the location of Iran. It was revealed that actually the government has provided thousands of its supporters an unrestricted SIM cards. These SIM cards are known in Iran as a white SIM card, and only supporters of the regime have those SIM cards to basically to get connected without any restriction, without need for VPNs, and promote official narratives.
Is this written down in policy documents as well, this idea of a tiered internet?
No one said it officially, but during these recent days, we heard that the government has asked some organization to register if they want internet access. They may be able to expand it as a project in the upcoming months or years.
There have been some reports that there are disagreements at the top of the Iranian government about whether or not to turn the internet back on. What's your understanding of the current situation?
Yeah, always we can hear these reports, but basically they are not important, I can say, because those who make decisions have the upper hand. Always they have had this position. And we cannot be sure that those that say we disagree are the real, because as I said, this whole project was advanced during the Rouhani administration. We can hear that reformists or moderate, they disagree with internet censorship or internet shutdown, but it is contradictory with what they actually did when they were in power.
Do you think Iran can really afford to stay offline globally for such an extended period?
Not now or in the near future, as they said that their project is not completed. Currently, even their own infrastructures, their own services need access to global internet. But what can I say is that there is such a political will inside the country to achieve this.
So you think it may happen?
A decade ago, it was very hard to imagine that the country will face internet shutdown and at the same time many governments' online services work. So maybe in the future we can see a complete shutdown, but hard to say that.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's been fascinating talking with you and understanding how we've got to this point. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
That's it for this week's episode of The Conversation Weekly. You can read more analysis on the protests in Iran by experts around the world on theconversation.com, and we'll put some links for further reading in our show notes. This episode was written and produced by Mend Marawani and me, Gemma Ware, with production assistance from Katie Flood. Sound mixing is by Michelle Macklem, and our theme music is by Nita Saal. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can email us directly at podcast@theconversation.com. You can sign up for The Conversation's free daily newsletter too by clicking on the link in our show notes. The Conversation is a non-profit news outlet dedicated to sharing the work of academic experts with a wider audience. If you like what we do, please support us at donate.theconversation.com. And please do also rate and review the podcast wherever you follow us. Thanks for listening.
Hiya, I'm Katie Edwards, and I'm a health editor at The Conversation.
I'm Dan Baumgart. I'm a lecturer in health and life sciences at the University of Bristol, where I also work as a GP.
And we work together a lot, and we try to explain weird and wonderful things about the body. And now we're teaming up to host Strange Health, which is a new video podcast from The Conversation.
So each episode, we're going to be taking a health trend going viral on social media.
You know the kind of thing. Drink chlorophyll to make sure you don't stink.
Do you really need to detox in January?
Have a supplement to make your bum look better. All that kind of thing. Each week, it's going to be me and Dan, plus an expert, who are going to thrash out between the truths and the myths.
You know, me being an anatomist, I was like, oh, can I have a look? And it was huge.
The liver is amazing. It's probably the only organ that can regenerate itself completely.
And we're calling it Strange Health because we're not scared of disgusting things. Episode 1 arrives on the 20th of January. So follow us on YouTube or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.